So, welcome everyone. We have some new faces, we have some visitors, so we won't get into that now, but we're happy you're here. Thanks for making the effort to be here on this cold day. So, as we mapped out the teachings for the year, we really wanted to kind of figure out why we're Emmanuel. Why is the community here? How do we live it practically? And so last time together we spoke a bit about briefly the history of the community, our call into it, what we can offer the world, the state which the world finds itself, what the community can offer to humanity. And so today we'll talk about who we are, so Emmanuel, God with us, our specific call to holiness, and then a little bit how we practically will live this, and what the community gives to us, how they give us, help us to live this, the call to holiness. So the first desire, the first reason the community exists is for our own personal sanctification. And that's as well the desire of all baptized Catholics, sanctification for holiness. From Christi Fidelis Laici, the prime and fundamental vocation that the Father assigns to us in Jesus with the Holy Spirit is the vocation to holiness, that is, the perfection of charity. So, the fundamental vocation God is asking of us is the perfection of charity, this call to holiness, the vocation of holiness. So we can hear from 1 Corinthians, so what is charity? What is love, we could say? Because if we as a community, even if we're doing small things, we're doing poor things, maybe we think we're doing great things, if we're not doing them, we hear if we're not doing them with love, it doesn't really matter. So love, we hear from Corinthians, it's patience, it's kindness, it bears all, it believes all, it hopes all things, it endures all. So we could say, as a community, so we should have patience, kindness, right? These things bring us to holiness. What is it not? It's not rude, jealous, inflated, self-seeking, quick-tempered. It does not rejoice in wrong. So those things, being rude, jealous, self-seeking, these things, they won't bring us to holiness. They won't bring us to personal sanctification. Love never fails. We hear this in Corinthians. So, how does this speak to us today? Like, what do we know, we hear these things, we hear these words from a long time ago, but we could say that today it is even more urgent, and this is from Christi Fidelis Laici, that it is ever more urgent that today all Christians take up again the way of the gospel renewed to be holy in all conduct. So that, this encyclical was written about 30 years ago, and it's saying, in this encyclical, it's saying today, it's even more important. It says, today we have the greatest need of saints, whom we must beg God to raise up. I think we could say that today we might even have a greater need of saints that we can beg God to raise up. All of Christ's followers are invited and bound to pursue holiness and the perfect fulfillment of their own state of life. So, just again, this call to holiness. It's not just something the community is saying because, I don't know why. It's saying the church, it's the reason that we are following Christ, right? It's the reason he has called us to follow him is holiness. From the handbook, we hear that Christ calls all men and women to holiness. From Matthew, be holy as my heavenly Father is holy. So, again, Emmanuel Community, it's first a way of personal sanctification and union with God, okay? So I realize I'm repeating myself, but I really want to be clear. That's the point of the community. It's not that we do great things. It's great if we do great things, right? It's great if we have programs and missions and all of these things. But first, it is for us to be holy. And the community will help us in this. This is what we're going to talk about, practical ways to be holy. So all of these spiritual suggestions, the practical suggestions that the community gives us, they're directed toward the goal of her members' holiness. So some spiritual suggestions that we get from the community: adoration, compassion, evangelization, frequenting the sacraments, offering of self to others, our devotion to Mary. Those are spiritual ways that we can be on this path to holiness. The practical ways also, companionship. I don't know if, probably most of us here don't have companions. Patrick and I, for the first time ever in the community, for almost the past 2 years, we've been walking with companions. And what that means for people who don't know is that you meet monthly. We meet as a couple, and then we meet as an individual, just with people who are been in the community longer, and they walk with you. It is a great gift. It's kind of amazing, actually. Even though, as I shared in Household this last week, I'll fight it. I'll fight my companionship and making it happen, and then every time it happens, it's such a gift. So, practical ways. The community offers us companionship. Household, weekly meetings. Our service, the service that we're asked to do today, that's actually a way for you to become holy. Because sometimes it's a burden, and we're being asked to sacrifice these ways. But there's fruit. We're giving of ourselves. We know, look at the Lord on the cross. It's not fruitless. So these little things of service, our service, fraternal life, sanctification journal, and then our spiritual and material sharing. These are practical ways for us to become holy. The call to sanctity and the desire to evangelize through love are the profound driving force behind every community commitment. I'm going to say that again because I put it in caps. The call to sanctity and the desire to evangelize through love are the profound driving force behind every community commitment. So let's remember that as we go to Household, as we meet our companions, as we come together today, as we're asked to do a service, that it's for our holiness. So we have this desire. We hear we should have this desire to be holy. So with the community, how do we reach this goal? What do we do? So we've talked a little bit about this, I think, since Patrick and I have been in charge here. I remember an example, I think we said with Esteban. We talked about how we go farther together, right? So Esteban, who's not here, he's a runner. He's super fast. And it's kind of amazing the way he runs. There's a race every year that he typically has done, and he wins his age division. He's so fast. And I was giving the example that I claim to be a runner. But I do not go far on my own. I set up running dates with a friend of mine. Honestly, without them, knowing that she's there at 6 in the morning, I'm probably not going to go. But with her, I get there and we run. We go further together. So this was the part, Patrick was going to talk a little bit about a book he's read a couple times now called Grit. And it's about being gritty in life. And what does that mean? And I'm going to do my best to kind of tell you some things that he's told me and that we've talked about a little bit here, so I won't go in depth. But to have grit means that you're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to put in the work, the hard work for something good. And the book is more about in the business world. But they have all of this research in the book. And a lot of it's Harvard-based researchers. And these people are not coming from a place of, they're not necessarily believers. But what they can surmise out of all of the research that they put together, that in general, in life, if you are a part of a community or you're a part of a group, you will go further. You will go further. And so the community, so we can do this together better. We are an assembly of the faithful of all states of life who desire to commit themselves in a life which is both contemplative and apostolic at the heart of the Catholic Church. So we live together this call to holiness and to announce Christ. We talk a bit about in the community that really if we were brothers and sisters, those sitting around us have been called to the community, it's because the Lord has put them there. Okay, so we receive them. We realize that they're supposed to be with us on this journey. So we've been brought together by the Holy Spirit to grow together. But we cannot help each other if we do not first seek holiness ourselves. St. John of Mola tells us, if we are rich in grace ourselves, we can spread it around us, for we cannot give what we do not have. So, if you want to help your brothers and sisters, you want to help others grow in holiness, you must be holy. To be holy, we must be persistent, especially in our prayers. We need to petition the Lord daily, and he tells us to do so. So, I was at Mass this week, and the reading, the gospel reading was from Luke, and it's, the guy comes at night and he knocks on the house and he's like, it's midnight, but I need some bread. And the Lord basically is saying, and the answer is, I tell you, if you don't get up to give him bread because, out of your goodness, you're going to get up because he's persistent. And I don't know why, I've just never really understood this, and I've never really understood then it's like, okay, then ask and you'll receive, and seek and you shall find. And Father Mario was saying that this lesson we can learn about prayer is one of the greatest lessons of the gospel, because we are told to be persistent. We are told to go daily to the Lord, to ask him again and again and again. And he's basically saying, as the friend, if he's going to get out of bed, if he keeps knocking. It's like at night when the monitor, and there's Avila, and she's like, oh. Patrick and I say, okay. See what happens. And then there's a little bit more. Okay, we'll just wait it out a little bit. But then when it really gets going is when you have to get up and you have to go get her out of the crib. And it's the same with the Lord. It's what we're being told. This is our call to daily prayer. That if we want to then be able to live this ask and you shall receive and seek and you shall find. Because I hear that and I'm like, I'm going to ask for this, right? No, that's not the point. The point is you will get that if you are persistent in your prayer life. So we must be persistent, especially in our prayers. We must petition the Lord daily. And that gospel is Luke 11, 5 through 13, if you want to go back to it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about prayer then. So we need to pray, right? So how do we do this? And I got some of this is there's some YouTube teachings out there. The community has given us many moons ago. But Joyce, she's a sister in the community, and she gave a teaching on personal prayer. So some of this comes from Joyce, but it was so good to watch again. Okay, so prayer, we have to be persistent. So prayer is a heart-to-heart with God. Mother Teresa says, God speaks in the silence of our heart, and we listen. And then we speak to God from the fullness of our heart, and God listens. And this listening and speaking is what prayer is meant to be. So it's a relationship. Prayer is allowing God to look at us and love us. It's not a technique. It's a relationship. Think about the relationships you have in your own life. I think about my relationship even just with Patrick, right? If I want to know him, if I want to get to know what's happening in his life, we have to talk. We have to have a relationship. It's the same with any friends in your life. You think of long-distance friends, right? If you don't put in the time, it doesn't really happen. There's not a relationship. It's the same with the Lord. We have to put in the time. It's not a technique, it's a relationship. Prayer is how we are united with God. St. Teresa of Avila says that prayer is nothing more than spending a long time alone with the one I know who loves me. And there is only one way to go to God. It's in prayer. Think about the air we breathe, that we need it. Our lungs need air. Otherwise we won't be sustained. We won't be living, right? Our lungs need healthy air. They need good air. So our soul needs prayer. Our soul must be constantly breathing through prayer if we want our soul to be thriving, if we want our soul to be in union with the Lord. So that means we have to make it a priority. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. I think it's good to think about this passage. Without me you can do nothing. Again, this is not something that you haven't heard before. It's not like I'm a genius and I just thought this up. We hear this, but it's hard. This is why we're hearing it again, that it's so important to take time for daily prayer. I'm saying this to myself too. I know that life is busy, okay? But without the Lord, we can do nothing. So sometimes in the community, we like to talk about this long time of prayer. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a long time of prayer? It's going to be different for each one of us. I loved this part of Joyce's teaching that she is saying, which I'm not going to lie, I initially find this annoying because it's like one more thing I have to do, but then it really makes sense. It really makes sense. So I think about my own life with my children, doctor's appointments, my own appointments, hair appointments, whatever I have to do, work appointments, meeting with clients and Patrick's business meetings, okay? It's on our calendar. I'm putting it on my schedule all the time, a babysitter, date night, whatever it is, right? Joyce suggests in this teaching, we should write the Lord on the calendar, right? I mean, we put everything else on our schedules. Maybe we should put the Lord there. And maybe it would help us if we knew, today is the day I go and spend my time in adoration. I know it. I put it there already. I'm going to go do it. And this long time of prayer is going to look different for everyone. So that's up to you. I won't tell you what to do there. I know what I might need right now. You can decide what you might need. But it's better for us to take 5 minutes every day, 10 minutes every day, than that one day where you finally sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to pray. One day, this week. It is better every day to take a little bit of time. And it's good to make, a place in our home. Right now I'm trying to do this, so I'm not telling you this that I have it all together. I'm telling you this because putting together the teaching, getting advice from brothers and sisters. Right now, though, we're trying in our home to make a little place where all of our prayer books are. All of the journals we use, our praise books. We have we write down who's asked for our prayers, who we're praying for this week. It's all there in one place, because it's not right now. And we know where it is, but it's one more thing to do. So maybe it would help for us, the community is saying to us, it's good to have it all together somewhere, right? You go to it, it makes it simple. It's you take one step of finding your things out of the equation, and you're gonna do it. So maybe it's good this week to think about that. Where could you do this in your home? And that's gonna help us make this time for prayer. And in prayer, we need to start with where the Lord has been speaking to us, which is where we're going to find in our journals, our sanctification journals, what we've received from the Lord, and then we're ready to listen in our prayer. So, speaking about sanctification journals, as we put together, we asked you kind of what you wanted to hear about, what you wanted to learn about, and quite a few of you asked, could we hear a bit more about the sanctification journal and what it might be? And so some of this comes from a really great teaching by Jean-Luc Moons that many of you know. You should just watch it just so you could laugh, because I love Jean-Luc. And he's very animated. So it's great. You actually feel like you're sitting in front of him and he's talking to you. It's so good. Anyway, so I got this out because he does this great thing with his journal that I'm going to show you here in a minute. So we're going to talk about, we're talking about prayer. We need to start in prayer with what we've already received, okay? So how do we know what we've received? Well, the community, this is our practical ways, right? It tells us to have a sanctification journal, okay? It's actually 3 in 1, which it's okay. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. It's a word journal, it's a sanctification journal, and it's like an apostolic evangelization journal all together. So what you do is you have the front part, and this is where you have your word journal, what you received today, what we received in praise. You're going to write it down. What you receive in prayer, what you receive in household. And then when you flip it over on this side, you write the sanctification journal. We're going to go through what it is. And then maybe in the middle, that's where you write, are you evangelizing? Who do you need to reconnect with? And we're going to talk about that. So it's 3 journals in 1. You can have 3 journals if you want. I don't know if I suggest that because that sounds like something I'm not going to be able to do. But I found, hold on. I lost this and then I found it. This could help. You can get a little one, right? You can carry this around. Jean-Luc, in his example, he had this big journal. He's like, you just carry this around. Just put it in your pocket. I was like, I can't put that in my pocket. I can put this in my pocket, Jean-Luc. Anyway, so I got it on Amazon. You can figure out what you want to do. But this little journal that I've yet to use because I got it and then I lost it. I found it again and I'm going to start using it. Because I found myself in mass or in adoration, like maybe randomly, right? Like I didn't plan to go, I was able to go, took the kids, were there, and I'm receiving something from the priest, from the homily. And I can't tell you how many coloring pages or receipts that I've been writing on. It's ridiculous. Not anymore. So go get yourself one of these, and you can not write on receipts anymore, and you can keep track of what it is. And then you can come back and you can put it in here. Okay, so Jean-Luc Moons asks us, this is about the sanctification journal, do we want to be holy? If the answer is yes, we need help. So we need help, and this is where the word journals come in. Do you believe that God speaks to you? This is good too. This is what you have to watch, is YouTube teaching. Do you believe God speaks to you? Yes. So it's kind of important because he's God. Right? And so if God is speaking to you, you should write it down. Right? I mean, I was listening to this going, duh. Right? I mean, it's God, and he's speaking to me. I should probably take note on what he's saying. This is why the community gives us a sanctification journal. We put in our words from daily mass, our words from personal prayer, which means you need a Bible. So you need a Bible. And words you get during household. You're going to put them all in your sanctification journal, okay? Something that could be useful, which I find useful when I do it, and then when I don't do it, it's not so useful. But don't just write down Matthew 5:13. At least write down a little bit. Write down a little bit of the passage. Because then when you go back through your journal, you're like, oh, that's great, I received that. I don't know if I have time to look that up. No, then you just see it and you know it, and it's easy, it's quick for you, okay? Take the time to write the words you receive. There's something, I don't know how many of you do this, maybe you do this in your work or when you're working or whatever it is. There's something about putting pen to paper versus typing it out, just reading it. There is something about, if I would have had more time, I would have looked up the psychological reasons for this. Maybe some of you know. There's something about putting pen to paper. This is why we're writing it down. This is why the community asks us to write it down, okay? It's like we take it in, we see it, we've done it. We'll remember it more. These words will penetrate our mind a little bit more. So if we write these words down, we write the reference down, the good news is that sharing in your household every week is going to become a lot easier, right? Because going back to what is household, we're living, households have started. You've probably heard from your head of households, what is it about? I mean, this really is the heartbeat of the community. You're receiving from your brothers and sisters. And so you need to be able to have something to share with them because the Lord's speaking to you. I don't know about your households, but our household has been a little profound in our praise since we've started. I think we've all, I've talked to Katie, she's in our household, we talked about this a little bit. Oh, you're in my household, you can confirm? Great. Sorry, I'm like turning away from it, it's so rude. Okay, I'm gonna turn back this way. So, we've received the kind of crazy confirmations in our household. Like, in these texts that we get, it's like, it's been really beautiful. And we've written them down, and I went back through them the other day to just look again and to see how the Lord's speaking. And so that's the point of this journal, right? You're going to look again and you're going to see what he's trying to say to you. And I think it will be good for our household here soon. Maybe we have a dinner or something. We kind of go through that and talk and see what the Lord has said to us, because it's not been nothing. It's actually been really beautiful. So our household sharings are going to be easier if we use the sanctification journal to write down what the Lord is saying to us, okay? I'm just going to say this the way that maybe, I don't know, I should probably stop talking about Jean-Luc, but he says this is a fantastic experience. If we do this, it's a fantastic experience. I don't know, I was kind of drawn by that, like, really? This is a fantastic experience? Okay. Maybe I should try it. Maybe I should get on board and do this a little bit more consistently. Okay, so we have our sanctification journal. Do you want to be a saint? Then you need this book. Jean-Luc does. So.
It's easy.
It's so easy. It's so easy. And I'm getting distracted by the clock because it's not working. And I realized that I was like, wow, I'm really not taking any time here, but it's not moving. So I'm going to look at my watch. Okay. So to be holy, and the community is really good about this. We hear about our poorness, our littleness a lot, right? We need to do ordinary things in an extraordinary way. Even this, even receiving the words of the Lord and taking the time to do this. I know it's not nothing, trust me. It's not nothing. This is probably why a lot of us aren't doing it, right? Because it's all of these extra steps. But if we want to be holy, if we want to bring others to holiness, if we want to have a relationship with the Lord, this is, at least for the community, and I'm sure other communities do this too, it's what we're being asked to do. We're going to keep track of how we can be faithful to the call of God with these journals. We heard in praise our poorness, and poorness and weakness can go together, just the little thing that we are. We know that we're poor. We know that we're weak. And these decisions, these small decisions are going to help us. They're going to help us decide how much time we're going to spend in prayer. They're going to help us see where the Lord's speaking. And we need to start small. So I would just encourage you to start little by little. Maybe you're not praying every day, okay? So then don't tomorrow say you're going to pray for an hour every day now. Don't do that, because tomorrow you might not pray for an hour, and then you're going to get discouraged. Say, tomorrow I'm going to pray for 10 minutes. I'm going to pray for 10 minutes. And then in a month, 10 minutes is no problem for you. So then I can pray for 20 minutes. And then at some point, you will be praying an hour a day if you have that time, okay? Just start small, okay? Life is busy. We all know this. So don't get discouraged in this. Make the small decisions. The sanctification journal and the word journal, it's not a catalog of our successes. It's not to write down, I went to Mass, I did this, I prayed, I got all these things. It's actually to say, what am I not doing? Did I do this? Did I go to Mass, but was I late? The Lord, I need to work on getting to Mass on time, okay? It's a way for us to, in the way that you need to get a Mass on time, or you see where you're making mistakes, so it's not a catalog of our successes. It's also a way for us to realize, oh, we said we were going to pray for all these people. This is where we put it all together, okay? We're going to make a list of it in our journal. Have we met with our companion? Are we tithing? Do we spend time with our children? So you can see how you want to organize this journal, but what I'm trying to say here is that between the words you receive and the way you're living your life, this is one of the ways, concretely, that the community is offering us a path to holiness. By keeping this, by doing it, by going back to it. So in our littleness, the little sacrifices that we can make, Pierre used to speak about these. It was a big thing for him, the little things, right? This is the point, that we're doing ordinary things in extraordinary ways, that we're changing little by little, that we're poor, okay? The community we receive these images a lot. Doesn't mean we can't do big things, but we also recognize our poverty. You have to forgive me because I did prepare this with my husband and he's not here.
You're doing great.
Thank you. It's kind. Okay, so I think that's all I'm going to say about the sanctification journals, because I'm assuming you kind of get the point and you can organize it as you want. But, sorry, one thing. I did like this. In the apostolic section, if you're going to write down, I need to talk to this person about the community. I think this person might be interested in something in the community. Sometimes we have these thoughts and we don't get back to them, okay? If we write them down, then we circle back around and then we say, oh, okay, now I will reach out to that person. It's a way for us to just also be attentive to those around us, to when we say we're praying for them, we're praying for them. And I think that's a good thing for us to write down, write these opportunities or the people the Lord has presented to us. So, just quickly, now I'm going to go back through. So the idea, the teaching, Emmanuel, God with us, our call to holiness, and what the community asks of us. So prayer time, adoration. We know that the profound grace of the community is adoration and these journals. But I'm going to go back a little bit and I'm going to repeat something that we heard from Laurent a couple years ago. We're going to repeat the call, the graces of the community, because, and this is from Laurent, that when we go to the Eucharist, when we go to adoration, he's the same, right? He's the same, but we receive something new every time. So in the way that I want to repeat a little bit about the community, nothing's changed, but maybe we'll receive something new. Maybe we'll hear something new and recommit to our call to Emmanuel. We know in our name, God is with us. And because he's with us, we adore him. We don't mean to beat a dead horse with this one, but we're going to keep saying it. We need to be adoring. We need to be adoring. That is our call in the community. And when we adore him, we'll exercise compassion, evangelization, because of our name, because God is with us. We have a special call in the community. We have all states of life with us. And we receive our other members of the community as brothers and sisters. And if we don't have, this deep desire to live out adoration, compassion, evangelization with our brothers and sisters, if we don't see this in others, then we're not necessarily Emmanuel. It's good to remember that we're in the world and not of it. The community is not one that we kind of set ourselves apart. Laurent gave the examples of vertebrates and invertebrates, which shell and no shell, I'm not sure the great translation. But he says that we're the ones who are exposed to the world. We're the ones who touch the skin, to be with the world, to be in contact, to not be afraid to touch the flesh. And we're going to be able to do this with love, and we're going to be able to bring the Lord with us because of our prayer time, because of our relationship with him. People, as we know in this world, are looking for that light. They're looking for the light in the darkness, and we can be that. But when they find us, and they know we're Catholic, are they going to find us burning with love for him? Are they going to find us being this light and this joy and this gift? I hope so. Because of our time in adoration and because of our relationship with the Lord, we are not another human organization. We're just not something that comes together, okay? We are bringing the Lord to people. So we need to keep our sanctification journal. We need to have a prayer life. We need to pray for our brothers and sisters. We need to ask our brothers and sisters how we can help them, okay? We don't give lessons, we're going to encourage. And the last little thing about the community is that it's not something that we walk into. It's not like we're attending a school and it's all set up and like we walk into the school and we just do what they're doing. It's something that needs each of us in order for the community to exist. If you have a call to the community, it means the Lord needs you here. It's something that we create. And if the Lord, that means that if the Lord has given you a desire to be in the community, that he needs you here. I'm gonna let Kevin off the hook for a minute because I asked him to do something and I just feel really free right now. I'm gonna do it anyway. Because hopefully you've received a call, you're here, right? So you've received some sort of a call to the community. And because we need you to create it, is for that reason that if there's something that you want from the community, if there's something you desire for the community, specifically the local community, and the Lord, you feel like it's on your heart and the Lord's asking you, I'm here to tell you that that means you need to do something about it. If you have a desire for mission, evangelization, whatever it may be, and the Lord's asking you, it's like poking you, oh, the community should be doing this, the community should be doing this. If you don't listen to that for yourself and don't do something, don't expect the community to do something. You are the community. And I want to affirm you in this, that we need you. We need you. But if you're receiving something and being asked and you have a desire for the community, then it's for you, right? Then do it. Bring it to us. We can talk about it, but that you are the community. We don't walk into it, you create it. And we need your help to create it. We need your yes. We need your yeses in services that might be asked for the year. And thank you for all of your yeses that we're getting. Thank you for all the services that you're doing. But I just really wanted to just say that and leave that here and put it on your hearts. And maybe as we go into adoration, it's a good time to ask, well, then what is my desire for the community? What do I see in the community that I'd like to do or that's lacking or that we're not maybe living? Okay, Lord, what do you want me to do about it? I'm here, right? We're all here together. We're all brothers and sisters. So with that, I'm happy to, if we have any questions about sanctification journals, prayer journals, our call to holiness. If there are any other practical questions, we can take a couple minutes and open it up.
Jacqueline, how would one go about getting a companion in the community?
It's a really good question. So if you want a companion in the community, well, you can talk to Patrick or I, but then Rosemary LeBlond is in charge of all companionship, and I'm happy to connect you with her. There's a lack of companions a little bit, but I think it's important that if you see your commitment in the community as a real thing, it could be important to start asking now. I might want a companion. I might want somebody who I talk to once a month. Our companions are in Saskatoon. We've never met them. We talk to them on Skype. It's wonderful. They're the best. And it's really simple. But if you're thinking that maybe it's a good thing for you, because this is the place where we can bring anything to them, and they led the community in Saskatoon for 17 years, so it's really a great grace for us to be able to kind of bring these things to them, and they help us so much in it. And so if you're thinking that, maybe you need somebody to walk with you on this path a little bit more, like, concretely, ask. I'm happy to talk to you, and then we can set you up and we can talk to Rosemary and she can start looking, because it takes a little while. It takes a little while.
I can just speak to that. It takes time, so if you want one, you have to start asking that's really true. And it's a really good way to put into action the parable from Luke. You have to be persistent, right? So just kind of mentally adapt that if you're going to get a companion. That's really necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just said something that made me think of something. Oh, and if you're asked to be companions, don't be afraid. It's really simple. Patrick and I are companioning another couple from Saskatoon. And at first we were like, no, nobody needs advice from us. And then our companions encouraged us to think about it differently. And we did, and we said yes, and now we're companioning this couple. So maybe you're in a place in the community where you'll be asked. It's simple. Did I answer your question?
Thank you, Jack.
You're welcome.
So how did you prepare your hearts actually, I mean, the couple did share with you, but like to be a companion? How do you prepare yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, obviously.
Right. So it was good for us to be asked and to have to pray about it. We had a long time to make the decision if we wanted to walk with them, and it was a good reminder also that we need to make sure that we are doing all of these things I just talked about, that we're having daily prayer, that we're attending daily mass as much as we can, that I'm in adoration as much as I can, all of these things, because as I just said, I can't give something to others if I'm not receiving it, right? And so in that way, we kind of just asked ourselves, are we ready? Are we ready? Do we think spiritually we could be this for another couple? And more than anything, we realize that it's also simple. It's so simple to walk with another brother and sister in the path of the community, that if their questions have not been hard, it's not been difficult, and it's just a way to build fraternal life as well. And so, we felt too, I've known the community for a while now, 16 years, something like this. So I thought, I might have something to give at this point, And it's simple, it's really simple. So if you've been asked, or if you're thinking, I might be able to do this, just pray about it and see what the Lord wants. And ask your companions, if you have them, and see what they say. But really through prayer, we decided that we could be this. We could give 1 hour, hour and a half a month to somebody else.
It's a little detail of the sanctification journal, so I don't keep the double journal. I just have my one, which doesn't get written in very much anymore. So I have the little one to chase after. But from how it was explained to me, so if you flip it, you got your sanctification. It's literally like, in this week, what are like the 3 or the 5 things I'm going to work on? So if it is, I haven't been praying every day, I'm going to pray every day. And I'm going to bite my tongue with the children, or whatever. And then that way, at the end of the week, maybe it's always household day, or maybe it's always Sunday because of the have an extra day to pray with the Lord, to look and be like, okay, great, Lord, you helped me accomplish that, but this next point, I need to be reminded of, I need to go back. And so it's not like, oh, I really need to grow in this, let me go make dinner. And I've forgotten what I just had to work on. Because if the Lord is speaking to us, which hopefully he is, whether we hear it or not is the question, but it's the way to try to keep track of where is the Lord calling me to grow. And
Yeah, that's a good point. And I didn't. You can, again, I'll send the link to the teaching if you want to watch it. But Jean-Luc does say that really you write these things, just like Heather said. And did I do this? Did I not do this? Is the Lord asking me to work on something else? What is it? I'm going to write it down. I'm going to go back to it. Yeah.
I'd just like to encourage participation in the culture of life. I'm blessed with a wife who was point person in Madison for 40 Days for Life, bringing it off the ground several years ago, like 10 years ago. And just kneeling you're silent and you don't say anything, you can really take in a lot at that place. The devil is lying to us front, right, and center, and the culture is lost, and we are so blessed to have an openness to life in the children that are running around and laughing, and that generosity that we have can alleviate some of those fears that the devil is convincing us, or women and people. You know, you cannot have this baby, you cannot have this child because of this, and this. And this baby is not precious. It's a blob. There's such a big smoke screen and the culture really needs our generosity, really needs our love, our look of love, my wife would say, just to smile and to say, we have the gifts that we can share with you to alleviate your pain, to alleviate your fears. And, you know, it's just, anyway, it's a profound experience, and I just like to encourage it. 40 Days for Life is going on across the world now, and countries I didn't even know they would be in, but it's beautiful. I just like to encourage it.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good, if you find yourself having desires to do things like this, or maybe you've thought about it before, this is not to like really try to sell you on this journal, but it's a good place to write it down. You could go back to, and to know that you have that desire, and then again, to be the light that these people might meet, to be able to be that light. It's coming through your prayer time and your relationship with the Lord. So, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.